Is Vladimir Putin a war criminal? The International Criminal Court, ICC, located in The Hague, believe he is. On March 17, 2023, the ICC issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin to answer for his crimes. The warrant focuses specifically on the war crime of unlawful deportation of children from occupied areas of Ukraine to Russia since February last year. The ICC, also known as the Court, investigates and tries individuals charged with the worst crimes against the international community, including genocide. The wider accusations against the Russian president are as shocking as they are numerous, ranging from the invasion of Ukraine to the bombing of civilian targets in Syria. But will he ever face justice for these alleged crimes? It is unlikely that any force will walk into Russia and arrest its head of state. For one, prosecuting the sitting head of state is against the Russian constitution. There are also other international legal barriers, and the small case of Putin's vast national and private armies protecting him. Still, it is embarrassing for the leader, and accusations of war crimes from the ICC will make it harder for Putin to travel and play a role in the global community. The warrant also lays the foundations for future actions, including personal sanctions and seized assets. Vladimir Putin's actions as the leader of Russia have raised serious questions about possible war crimes. In this video, we'll explore the evidence for Putin's possible involvement in war crimes, the obstacles to holding him accountable, and the potential consequences for international law and relations. Join us here at IE as we delve into one of the most controversial and timely issues in global politics. But before we get into it, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe. We cover important and controversial topics on this channel, and your support will help us with the algorithm. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine has been a source of tension between Russia and the international community. Since 2014, Putin has been accused of various war crimes, including annexing Crimea, downing Malaysia Airlines flight MH17, and using military force against Ukrainian civilians. The past few weeks have seen increased calls for Putin to be taken to trial. But what evidence exists to support these claims? In the case of MH17, the Joint Investigation Team, or JIT, consisting of investigators from the Netherlands, Australia, Belgium, Malaysia, and Ukraine, released a report blaming Russian-backed separatists for downing MH17 in 2014. The report identified the missile system used to shoot down the plane was brought into Ukraine from Russia and returned to Russia after the incident. All 298 passengers and crew members on board were killed. However, Russia has denied involvement in these events and refused to cooperate with international investigations. In Syria, Russia has vetoed several United Nations Security Council resolutions to hold the Syrian government accountable for war crimes, and instead supported the government in its military campaign against opposition forces. In Ukraine, the Bucha massacre is just one example of the atrocities attached to Putin's special military operation. It refers to the mass murder of Ukrainian civilians and prisoners of war by the Russian armed forces during the fight for and occupation of the Ukrainian city of Bucha amid the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The killing of innocent civilians, including women and children, has been widely condemned as a war crime and potential genocide, and of course, the man accountable remains Putin. Despite Russia's repeated denial, evidence of the massacre has been widely documented, and calls for an independent investigation have been made by the United Nations and other international bodies. Reports of the worst types of violence against women and girls held captive by Russian forces have also emerged, adding to the list of alleged war crimes committed in Bucha alone. But the accusations don't end there. In Syria, Russian forces have been accused of committing war crimes during their involvement in the conflict. Reports by human rights groups, such as Human Rights Watch, have documented a range of abuses, including the use of cluster munitions, incendiary weapons, and even chemical weapons against civilian populations. The use of sarin gas, a chemical weapon by the Syrian government, a close ally of Russia, against its citizens in Khan Shaykhun in 2017, reportedly killed 90 people, including 30 children. Putin's government then launched a disinformation campaign to protect Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, who was responsible for the attack. The effectiveness of chemical weapons like chlorine and dirty bombs, known to terrorize the population and create chaos, has been thoroughly tested by Russia's ally. Research conducted by the Global Public Policy Institute claims Assad has used chemical weapons in at least 336 attacks since 2012. In 2022, Putin was accused of using these same types of chemical weapons in Ukraine, where he escalated attacks on civilians, raising concerns that these horrific tactics are being replicated in Ukraine. These allegations are serious and have significant implications for Russia's international reputation. But despite mounting evidence, the Russian government has consistently denied involvement in war crimes. Nonetheless, The international community has condemned Russia's actions and called for accountability for these alleged violations of international law. The latest development in the ongoing discussion about Putin's alleged war crimes is the recent issuance of arrest warrants by the International Criminal Court for Putin himself. The warrants were issued in response to evidence of crimes against humanity and war crimes committed by Russian forces and their proxies in the conflict, specifically for the unlawful deportation of children from Ukraine to Russia. But will Putin stand trial? Despite mounting evidence and international condemnation, Putin has not yet faced any direct legal consequences for his alleged war crimes. The main obstacle to holding him accountable has been the lack of a suitable forum for prosecuting these crimes. Some have called for alternative forms of accountability, such as targeted sanctions against Russian officials or creating an independent commission to investigate war crimes. However, such measures are unlikely to significantly impact Putin's behavior or bring justice to the victims of these crimes. There is plenty of evidence to put Putin to trial, so who could do so? And why hasn't this come to fruition? The International Criminal Court, ICC, was established in 2002 to prosecute individuals for genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crime of aggression. The ICC is the world's first permanent international criminal court and has jurisdiction over individuals who commit crimes within its member states or are nationals of its member states. The ICC has had some success. In 2016, the ICC sentenced former Congolese Vice President Jean-Pierre Bemba to 18 years in prison for war crimes and crimes against humanity committed by his troops in the Central African Republic. Then, in 2019, former Bosnian Serb military commander Ratko Mladic was sentenced to life in prison for genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity committed during the Bosnian War. The ICC has faced criticism for its limited jurisdiction and inability to enforce its judgments. Some countries, including the United States and Russia, have refused to cooperate with the ICC, and the court has no police force or other means of enforcing its judgments. Ukraine gave the ICC jurisdiction over crimes committed on its territory in 2014. As a result, the ICC has opened an investigation into alleged war crimes committed by all parties in the conflict in Ukraine, including Russia. Russia, however, removed itself from the court jurisdiction in 2016, arguing that the ICC is a tool of Western powers to undermine Russia's sovereignty. As a result, the ICC's jurisdiction over Russia is limited. While the ICC may struggle to prosecute Putin for war crimes, other avenues of justice may be available. Swiss prosecutors recently brought a case against 4 bankers accused of helping hide tens of millions of Swiss francs on behalf of Vladimir Putin. The 4 bankers are charged with aiding Putin in laundering funds suspected of belonging to him through accounts in the name of Putin's cellist friend, Sergei Roldygin. The case is one of the first legal challenges to Putin's financial dealings and could have implications for his future legal troubles. The evidence presented in the case includes emails and other documents that allegedly show the 4 bankers' involvement in helping Putin launder the funds. If the case is successful, it could lead to the freezing of Putin's assets in Switzerland and other countries. It could also set a precedent for other countries to pursue similar cases against Putin, further complicating his legal situation. One of the biggest challenges to holding Putin accountable for war crimes is his legal immunity as sitting as head of state. The Russian constitution grants the president immunity from prosecution for any actions taken while in office. This means that while Putin remains in power, he cannot be tried for alleged war crimes. Even if Putin were to step down or be removed from power, it would be difficult to lift his immunity retroactively. According to the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties, an international agreement cannot be modified in its application to one party without the consent of all parties. This means that even if Russia agreed to lift Putin's immunity, other countries that have signed the convention would also have to agree. This may be difficult as some countries have remained supportive of Putin, making it challenging to build a consensus for his prosecution. The question of whether Putin will ever stand trial for war crimes is a complex and uncertain one. While the International Criminal Court has the authority to prosecute individuals for such crimes, it faces significant challenges in enforcing its decisions and relies heavily on the cooperation of state parties. Russia's non-participation in the ICC means that the court can only prosecute Putin with the authorization of the UN Security Council or a referral from a state party, which is unlikely given Russia's veto power. However, the possibility of holding Putin accountable for his actions through other avenues of justice cannot be ruled out. For example, Switzerland has launched a criminal investigation against several of Putin's associates for their alleged involvement in money laundering and other financial crimes. This could lead to charges against Putin, as he is believed to have been involved in such activities. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine and the atrocities committed by Russian forces have galvanized international outrage and strengthened calls for justice. The pressure on Russia and Putin to be held accountable for their actions is unlikely to subside, and there may be opportunities in the future to bring them to justice. Overall, while the prospects of Putin being prosecuted for war crimes remains uncertain, the pursuit of justice and accountability for those responsible for the atrocities in Ukraine must continue. The international community must work together to ensure that the perpetrators of war crimes and crimes against humanity are held accountable, and that justice is served for the victims of these heinous crimes.